Hello there guys, it is me Balbiel, and we are back here with another video. So in the last couple of videos, I introduced you guys to the major celestial bodies of the skies of Lineaos, which are pictured here. But what if I told you guys that within the inner cosmos here, Caelusia, those are not the only astronomical bodies floating around. There are more of many types, forms, and shapes. And in today's video, and the following videos to come, we are going to be introduced to these planetary bodies and these stellar oddities. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? So here are some drawings of more of the stellar objects and astral bodies orbiting within the firmament. Now, I know this looks like a lot, but like I said, we're not going to talk about all of them in today's video. We're only going to focus on a select few in each part. For today's part, we're going to focus on the dwarf and lesser spheres within the firmament. So on this sheet of paper, we're going to focus on these 5 and this one down here. And on this sheet of paper, we're going to focus on this one and these 2. And we're going to briefly talk about that one. So let's first start off with the dwarf spheres. The dwarf spheres are just like the major spheres, except they're much smaller. They do glow and shine bright with their colors, but they're just smaller. And currently, there are 5. We have Virgo, Tethys, Cancer, Boethius, and Boccaccio. So, for an analogy and comparison, the dwarf spheres of Lineaos are akin to the dwarf planets of our solar system. So these are just some of them right here. So some examples of dwarf planets include Pluto, which at one time was a planet, the oddly egg-shaped Haumea, and Ceres. But yeah, these 5 little guys are just like them. And unlike the major spheres, the little ones are rarely seen in the skies, and when they are seen, some of them are interpreted as an omen. But one major difference between the dwarf worlds and the major ones is their orbits. The major spheres orbit around in perfect circular orbits. But the spheres of Virgo, Tethys, Cancer, Boccaccio, and Boethius have no orbits at all. They just zim and zip throughout the firmament. They can go in any direction they want to. Up, down, side to side, anywhere they want. They are pretty chaotic. Now we move on to the odd world of Phanes, which has a really peculiar shape compared to other celestial bodies, because this one is in the shape of an egg. For comparison, it kind of reminds us of the egg-shaped dwarf planet Haumea, which we saw earlier. It also has a really interesting arrangement of colors. This hemisphere is primarily red, this one is brown, while the rest in the middle seems to be gray. But some of the colors do blend together, and there is a bit of a hue of blue in this area as well that I gave it. Due to its odd nature, it's quite unknown how Phanes got this way and didn't end up spherical like the dwarf spheres or the major ones. It's quite an astronomical mystery. In fact, the crimson, far more ancient and battered world of Carcinus, which we'll learn about in another video, if you look at it, actually looks to be oval shaped. Like at one time it was actually in the shape of an egg. If you look at them both, Carcinus and Phanes, one can see one another reflected. So, it's theorized that this battered and torn world, Carcinus, might have at one time been egg-like, just like Fanny's. But, eons ago, it got destroyed. The crab claw of Carcinus echoes back to a time of chaos and disorder. So now let us move on to this sheet of paper finally, and talk about more of the lesser spheres as well. So first we venture to Bonaventure and Stasius, which both have one thing in common. Well, actually two. They're both tilted on their axes, and they both are surrounded by a series of rings. These small ringed spheres remind one of the brilliant Saturn, or the mysterious yet intriguing Uranus. It is unknown how Bonaventure and Stasius got their rings, but they probably formed in a similar fashion to Saturn's rings. Basically, debris or moons got too close to the sphere, and they crumbled and cracked, and eventually formed into the rings that we see today in Saturn, and also in the spheres Stasius and Bonaventure. As said earlier, Stasius and Bonaventure are also tilted on their axis, just like Uranus is. The spheres of Stasius and Bonaventure must have been hit really hard by something that really messed up their orbits, just like how Uranus is today. And it is believed that Uranus also suffered the same fate a long time ago. Something hit into it and then really messed up its orbit. The last of the lesser spheres that we will discuss today is the strange, freckled, and battered Odysseus. This ancient world is battered with craters. In fact, its most prominent feature is this very large crater right here. Looking at Odysseus, one is probably reminded of Mimas. Mimas is one of Saturn's many moons, and in fact is the inspiration behind Odysseus. And one of Mimas's most prominent features is this large crater right here. Mimas's crater's name is Herschel. It is believed that Odysseus faced a very big cataclysm event. Something big smashed into its surface, forming the large crater, but Odysseus' sphere survived. So there you have it, guys. The dwarf spheres and the lesser spheres of Lineaos. But what is the difference between the dwarf spheres and the lesser spheres? Well, the 5 dwarf spheres burn brightly with hues of color and light, just like their much larger contemporaries, which orbit around the sky, bringing day and night to the surface below. But as for Fanny's, and especially Odysseus, they don't really burn bright at all. Stasius and Bonaventure have rings and are tilted on their axes, but unlike Odysseus and Fanny's, do burn bright with light. So there you have it, guys. Those are just some of the other celestial bodies floating around in the Caelusian layer. I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you're interested in this world building project, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more content, and also visit my website in the description below. In the next following videos, we're going to be exploring the more bizarre and stranger astronomical bodies floating around. So stay tuned and have a nice day. Bye!